The Ring of Dain Thar Duin, Book 7, Warrior's Flight in Dead of Night. Revenge is that worst plague which does haunt the world of men. Low and mean is the heart which holds that disease in it. Lust for violence born of pain consumes all who touch it, as though some terrible poison which enters through any lesion it finds, festering flesh until it turns brother against brother, husband against wife, as small deeds become wars by escalation. Terrible is this curse which falls on man alone, and is cause for his diminishment. Does the squirrel hold any anger in his heart for the fox, or the hare for a wolf? Nay, these battle fiercely in the moment, but at battle's end forgive their foe. They do not scheme the destruction of their pursuers, but forgive transgressions and continue upon that path set for them by their nature. Man has forgotten forgiveness, and so is fated to lose himself before trying to cast down others. The only cure is meek forgiveness, which is beyond him now. Aethelwald and Teloch came to the hall of the Teloch after restful journey, in which Aethelwald recovered his strength, for a calm which he had not known in his days had settled upon him, and he feared not the coming trials, though they loomed high. The Teloch had long feasted the stags, granting them plentiful mead and food the 30 days of Aethelwald's leave, for though they had done him great service in freeing his land from the grip of Tordagian, an account still needed to be made of their far too long stay. Larger loomed the king's anger that their captain had vanished from his lands, spoiling his desire to see Aethelwald wed to his daughter Shirday, an act which he had long struggled with in his heart. In swearing to give away his daughter, he grew enraged that the deed was not yet done, for he had come to hope for a fruitful union, and worried that some misfortune would at the last hour take it away. To this problem Aethelwald had not yet found answer as he approached the hall, knowing that he would not accept betrothal. Their coming was marked long before they lighted the steps of the Teloch's hall. Word spread quickly through the household as the Teloch's guard brought what they hoped was joyous news to their king, and special preparations were made for lavish welcome. Weary travelers in stained cloaks stood Aethelwald and Teloch before the hall, and all was quiet. Yet when they opened the doors and crossed the threshold, a great shout arose from the revelers. Flowers and branches of sweet woods were thrown to their hero's feet, as rings were placed upon their fingers, and his worn cloak replaced by fresh pelts. Mead placed into his numb hands, and he was guided by many hands to the highest mead bench, where sat the Teloch in regal joy, who rose as he approached and embraced him as a son, at the sight of which the hall gave such a shout as to shake the timbers above, and he was crowned with wreaths. The Teloch commanded silence and began to speak. "Welcome to your feast. At long last we can begin celebrations for the death of a poor king. I am told you left us to cleanse yourself of the deed, as though striking down a tyrant is an unholy act, as though killing his fiendish masters is an action unhuman. Yet this is not true. Those actions were good, and by cleaning the stain from your hands you have washed away the people for whom you did these actions. You have declared their suffering false, their cries feigned, and for this we admonish you. You have insulted those who will soon be your family. In the long years to come you will pay penance for this. Yet you have given much to my family, and so we shall not revoke any of those prizes which were promised to you. Peace at long last seems to visit the Ui Agla. Our foes vanquished by this young warrior, back to their long ships, back across salt seas, flying back to their bleak homelands with naught to show for their crimes. and thus we have much reason to give many fine gifts to our deliverers, who are rare among the Aeolish today. To each of the warriors who do follow this fine captain we give cattle, 2 head apiece. To those men which did go to Dremorla, and return having struck the deadly blow to our foe, we give such gold as we have. And to their captain I give that which is most precious in all the world, my daughter Sherde, binding him to my blood, and so shall he guard us from further evils. Drink now to this union, that by your good will it shall be blessed. All doors to the mead hall were flung open, and in came a wild procession of many girls in garlands and joyful dress, who circled the feast, giving honeycomb and wild flowers. Last of their number came Sherde in white. Long locks of red hair tumbled over her shoulders and lay as red oak leaves upon the first autumn snow. In the cloistered guard of her father she had grown to full womanhood, and all who sat upon the lower benches dreamed her to be theirs. Yet as Aethelwald gazed upon her, he saw fear looking back, for in him lay her nightmares of her kidnapping. She had no desire for him, nor he for her. His eyes still held the light of bathed lands, dreaming of her that walks by starlight. Aethelwald rose from his seat, and all eyes fixed upon him as he crossed the hall, past Sherde until he stood upon the threshold. And he spoke. You honor us with so many gifts, but these are not yours to give away. They do not want it, and we would not be foolish enough to take them. We will take none of these, not your cattle, not your gold, not your daughter. It is poor for guests to refuse gifts from their host, but I have broken such laws before. What is one more crime when so much blood does stain my hands? The great power that is will not shift my scales for this. Doomed is doomed. Yes, it is wrong for a guest to refuse gifts from their host, but it is wrong to give gifts which do not want to be given. We are leaving. Let the only gift which you give us be these long days, our only reward for service. Your kingdom delivered for mead and mutton. Come, men, we are leaving now. The long fear which festered in the heart of the Teloch curdled to rage, for he was offering a gift which he could not bear to part from. His generosity denied, the old warrior returned to the battle and gave order to arms. Shocked, the warriors of the Ui Agla searched the hall for their weapons, or else fell upon Aethelwald's men with goblets and plates. Unarmed, for such are the laws of guest-right, his men fled the mead hall in panic. What man can be brave when harmed under sacred law? Yet Teloch, the old bear, was not caught unawares, and when command for violence was given, he rose with fury, though with only the leg of a bird in his hand, and began striking those about him. The bone shattered and became a dagger in his hands, which he drove deep into a man. With strength beyond that of other men, he threw those who came against him with ease, so powerfully that they did not stir. He ran to the door, helping those in his path in mad battle. There, in the threshold of their enemy, he did stand, holding off his foes with no weapon but his fists, until the many men of Aethelwald had escaped beyond the door to their camp, where arms were stored. In vengeance they returned well armed for battle, coming up to the hall at the same time that those inside brought their own arms. Teloch stood still, unconquerable. Foes lay at his feet. The two hosts clashed about him, and many fell wounded to those who they had so recently feasted side by side with. Teloch pulled men from the line as they tried to fell him, and by the terrible power of his hand he broke them. Aethelwald pulled his men free of the hall, rallied them, but had no desire to see the many men of the Ui Agla, whom he counted friends, brought to harm, and sought to end the battle before too many were slain. For he had no desire to subjugate a people, but would rather lift all Aeolish from their meanness, and gave order to leave slowly. Teloch turned to the safety of the shields, yet as he did, a dart thrown from the dim hall pierced his side, and he fell into the arms of his companions. Aethelwald saw the bear fall. With such speed he reached Teloch and took him into his arms. Tears welled in his eyes, his breath short, but Aethelwald did not permit his anger to rule him, though a fire raged through every fibre of his being, and he held Teloch painfully tight, that he could not hold a weapon. Instead, his goodness won command of his body, and he ordered the withdrawal with all haste, and Teloch carried. In desperate hours they withdrew beneath harassing missiles of the Ui Agla, shields up and spears out as the porcupine. They withdrew from the hall whose glory they built, until at nightfall the Ui Agla returned home and troubled them no further. Aethelwald did not rest his men, but ordered them to sheathe their arms and run until daybreak. He then took his place holding the litter where Teloch lay, and they ran through the dark night. The weak moon lit little of their path. Across the long peninsula where the Ui Agla do live, far from the hall of the Teloch, till they reached sea shore, and from there up into the open lands of Aethelwald. As they ran, Aethelwald watched as the life drained slowly from Teloch, the dart deep in his side. The old bear did not moan nor weep as his sweat mingled with blood, but gazed into the endless heaven of stars which stretched above him, as it seemed to him that new stars flew with them, as though the sky wept light, and he was contented. Aethelwald followed the gaze of Teloch and saw swarms of light flies dancing above them, just as in bathed land. He knew she was close to them. All night the light flies followed above, a canopy of light to guide their path. The dark sky was made lighter. Dawn, the fierce stallion which does pull the sun through her kingdoms, broke the doors of the night and charged into the dark fields of the sky, chasing away the stars and light flies, for there is no power in all the world which dares shine together with the sun, and they fled before that wild stallion, leaving the sky once more to the light. When first red light reached Aethelwald and his warband, removing the night's worries beneath brightest flame, revealing the sleeping world of men, he called a halt atop a seaside promontory. He gave them rest as he went without. By the art of the otter he began to tend to the wounded Teloch, removing fateful dart and sealing with fire lest it fester. With clear running water he washed clean and bound the wound with bandage. He then sat beside to watch him, thinking only of his failings, his lost teachers who gave him command of every art which man does possess, of his slain father and brothers, doomed by the curse of he that lay helpless at his feet, of the woman who was fire and water, autumn and spring, and he cursed himself for his foolishness, refusing the Teloch in such manner, bringing vengeful hand against bad men in disgraceful manner, of living when so many others, so many greater men, had perished. Teloch stirred from fevered dreams to find his ward beside him, and was comforted, grateful that he had studied well the teaching of such wise men as the otter and sparrow. The old warrior saw that his ward was troubled by that understanding which all parents have for their young, and spoke to him. A sunrise I had not thought I'd see lights my home, a wide green land and good, a gift given by some great power to such a mean man as I. Generous is that which guides all things. I see in your eyes shame and loathing which you have set against your own soul. In this short life you have seen more death than most, but this does not make you base. You cannot be the lowest of all men, for that is I. Lay not the deaths of your kin against your soul. What can a child of 12 do when men have set themselves upon paths of recklessness and slaughter? You were a boy when your brother brought death upon your family by his crimes. You are neither made guilty from that, nor can you be held responsible for what came of his actions. It is no sin to share blood with fools. Nor did you command the deaths of the otter and sparrow. They chose to give battle against that force which has never known defeat, and they brought it to ruin at the cost of their lives. That is not tragedy, but heroism. Weep not, for to them was opened the gates of heaven. I have told you before, and must say again, that the action upon the Isle of Dremorla was a crime against neither the laws of men nor the laws of the Baith. Men who do slaughter the defenseless must die by any means. Luring them to their death by trickery is as just as meeting them in open battle. More so, as they were foreign to these lands and customs and broke sacred law in their violence. You were a divine instrument which did free the mortal world from a scourge. Evil is destined to die as it did live. Of the traitorous Teloch who turned to rage when you have given him all he has, his security, his power, and his people, worry yourself not. It is wrong for a guest to refuse gifts which are given them, but no host has right to so humiliate their guest. He desired to see you collared as a dog, that you come when called to give battle for him, an ungrateful master. You are not Curculach. His curse does not weigh upon you, nor calls you to serve any master. Aethelwald is your name, child of kings, leader of men unparalleled in the long history of the Eolish, save for Malach. He should have fallen upon his knees and kissed the heel of your boots as you walked away from them. Instead, he revealed to all men his petty heart. Soon shall he be toppled. Of my wound you should not trouble yourself. It is merely the peril which warriors face, and when one goes to battle, these wounds are waiting. It is only by fortune that I was not so scarred until my old age. Many find themselves broken by war in their youth and are forced to live long years not knowing what they might have achieved as old wounds stab with wraith knives. I think I have not long to live with this wound. It is no fault of yours that I lie in such a state, for you were right to spurn the Teloch when you did. It is your right to deny any man, even Teloch, for you carry the ring of the high Teloch. By right you stand above them. Had he known your name, he would have trembled for fear of your blood. I was wounded protecting unarmed men from sudden violence, a massacre done by those who did give salt and bread to us, binding them by ancient law of hospitality. Ghosts and specters shall haunt them the rest of their days. I am an old warrior who has long failed his masters. It is a small were-gild to pay for this wasted life. For though I swore oaths to Malach king, I have not fulfilled them, and each day I see him standing among the burning timbers of Hala, a defiant figure made silhouette by the orange flame which reduced his home to ash. His last command to me was that I keep his daughter safe from all harms. But I lost her. I lost the golden child of Eoland, and have cursed my blood and bones each day since. Through wild woods and open field I have searched, but to no avail. Understand, Aethelwald, there is a child who has grown to know nothing but fear and loss for my failure. I know not even if she remains among the living. This is a man's failure. Be not so harsh, passing judgment on yourself, for you are guilty of no terrible sin." Teloch fell silent. His breathing grew faint, his skin pale. As he drifted into sleep, with Aethelwald watching over him, his heart settled. Aethelwald gave to his men the hours of the morning to rest. Then, as the sun took her high seat above all things, he gave order to resume their flight with the aim of passing the mounds of Hala, and beyond to the wide green lands where the Teloch of the Ui Agla could not reach. Yet in that same hour the mad Teloch gathered his outriders and gave command to raise a host of all willing men they found within a day's ride of him, promising gold to any that did join, and the great prize of his daughter to him that brought Rololoch the head of Orhan the Denier, that vengeance might be fulfilled. Those that heard the call heeded it, making their way to the Teloch's hall with haste. Dreamed riches hung before their eyes, that for the life of one man they might have the daughter of the Teloch for a wife, and spend their days in ease off his allowance. Such little men were they. Though many had been brought back to the power of the Teloch by Aethelwald, their homes and families safeguarded by the hand which held the ring, they flocked as witless sheep after the promise of greener pasture. So as the sun rose 2 days from the battle upon the steppes, 400 men heeded the call and awaited the command of the Teloch, camped about the hall in a city which sprang up overnight. Their tents were as many white-capped mountains, their fires as the sea of stars, coughing forth embers which danced in the air as light flies into the night, dying and reborn as the wind took them. As the sun did rise on that second day, the Teloch descended the stone steps from his hall and walked among them. In furs and rich jewelry was he. To those who had long hungered for scraps and after acorns, he seemed greater than Malach. They came to him, groveling, kissing the earth where he did walk, abandoning their manhood and crawling as worms through dirt, until at last he came to a stop to watch their procession. And when they were gathered about him, he spoke. "Who is a king but that can command men to do his slightest whim, and who may judge when a life is to end and see that judgment carried out? He is just in all actions, and cannot transgress the sacred laws of mankind. I tell you this now, for I have discovered a life which must come to its natural end. The boy Orhan, who I did love as a son, and through him rebuilt this Tela as others lay still in smoldering ruins. Yet when I offered to bring him into my family proper, and gave to him the hand of my daughter, he rejected my love and brought death into my hall. He was my guest, and so broke with the ancient laws which govern the Eolish, and thus he must end. I shall give each of you gold for your aid, and he that does slay Orhan and brings to me his head shall have my daughter as a bride, a dowry paid in gold equal to the weight of his head. Go now and bring justice to this wretched land." They left there running, leaving behind their tents, their food, their spare clothing, but in their hands those cruel iron instruments made to rend souls from flesh. That which might have been a plough and turned to raising fields for the hungry was corrupted to harvest a more bitter crop. O iron, which man has beaten into shapes perverse to its nature and purpose, misused for his ever greater misdeeds, as war harvests their bitter fruit until no soul is left untouched. The band of marauders hurried along, shoving to lead the wild chase, though they knew not the proper tracks. The madness of the hunt was upon them. To lead was to live with strength coursing through as the leading wolf. Their lungs bellowed furiously, their legs were afire, their eyes stung as they searched green forest for the glimmer of gold which was to be theirs. Many fell, the clumsy feet of men unable to lead, caught upon the snarls and roots. falling injured as payment for folly. To the fore came one runner, who did not flag or fail, whose every step was as strong as the last, the air in his lungs not turned to fire as in the others, but left colder than before. He breathed as if at rest, and though many pursued him closely, victory hanging just before their eyes, they followed him, no matter how they pushed their bodies, until at midday they were made to submit to him. The number of hunters had thinned. 100 men proved too weak to claim glory for themselves. But the 300 who yet remained easily supplicated themselves to this captain. When the sun did reach her high seat above the mortal realm, Aethelwald gave order for his men to resume their flight. The weak Teloch carried on his litter, in haste lessened from the night. Well ordered were they, with warriors in the van and rear prepared for sudden violence, and scouts to discover ambush. Those men and women who did not give battle, but were their camp, marched in the middle of the long column, exhausted from the flight through darkness, unaccustomed to such desperation. In steady rhythm they went through the wilderness unseen, until as the sun began her steady decline, the scouts returned with word of a farmstead in their path. Aethelwald knew well he could avoid them, but he hoped that he might gain a better knowledge of the land about, that there should be no surprises for his men. He therefore gave command that his column give the farm wide berth, but that he would go to speak with those who lived there, though his men protested for fear of his safety. Aethelwald was set, and told them to wait no more than an hour for him, and should he fail to return, to consider themselves free from the spectre of death, for they were made safe by his demise. This did not allay their fears, but rather heightened them. But their commander could not be allayed, and they would not refuse his order. Aethelwald went to the farm as his host skirted it through the trees. From wooded hills he descended into a soft valley cleared and tilled, where grains did grow and sheep did feast, and flowers rose in the garden true. Aethelwald went not to the home first, delaying among the many fruits of the earth, his garment travel-stained and unwashed from the time he last rested. Blood and the soil of the Baith-lands were on his cloak. He drank from their well and enjoyed clear sunlight on his skin. He washed his clothing and bathed himself. All the while he felt eyes upon him, yet he maintained his work. Until satisfied, he turned to go. Only then did men come from the farm and from the barn. Armed, they accosted him. Who are you, in colors strange, that unashamed washes his body and clothes in another man's water? Have you no other place to be? Have you discovered no other place to water yourself? The sea is but short distance from here, but this did not satisfy your desire. 'Tis better to take that which belongs to another man than to discover your own. I well know you come not from the Ui Agla people. Neither power nor grace shines from you, and our colors of brown and red you wear not on your clothes. Are you a bandit, coming here for rapine and death? How many have you brought with you? You will find here that our family and clan, though far from the heart of Artella, are stout folk who sell what is theirs dearly. Speak, cretin, and we shall decide your fate. Aethelwald listened to all calmly, his heart in mirth at the ferocity of a small man and his kin so few in number, for his faith in his own blood was iron, though he was no more than a shepherd. But this Aethelwald held from his voice, and he addressed them steadily, his arms raised in peace. Calm, brothers, I have no arms, no cruel iron do I carry, not today. I am Aethelwald of a distant Tella. True, I carry no colors which belong to any Tella, for this style is done after the fashion of the Daona, and was adopted in this land but recently. I clothe myself in the fashion of our ancestors, in those colors which were appointed to our island, green for the fields and gentle hills, blue for the wide waters which do circle us, and remove us from the many peoples in wide Yrol, gray for the many mountains which do rise in this land, the children of the first Teloch Eol, for whom Eoland was raised from the seas. Our ancestors clothed themselves in different colors for different reasons. These clothes are for traveling our wide kingdom. Of my purpose I have just told you, to travel to the very end of the land, the place where rocks are broken by crashing waves and tumble beneath the waters, becoming our island no longer. This is the place of endings which I have long desired to see, and there I hope to achieve peace in my mind, long troubled. For many days I have wandered blind through the woods, when a sudden I did discover this broad pasture which is your home. I come to bathe and refresh, and when I am at my fill I shall leave you, and never trouble your days and nights. Indeed, I feel as a spirit of years long past, but I shall not haunt you. Nay, though you have forgotten the dress of your people, though you would refuse water to a weary traveler, though you would not warn him of near dangers or inform him of the surround, though you have not invited the wanderer to take your bread and sleep beside your fire, and the many other courtesies which your ancestors gave to those found on the threshold. You are but a man. In your heart lay his many failings. I know you not to be cruel, but weary, and afraid of what you should lose to my need. Let us place those worries to rest. I understand my place, and desire not to enjoy the delights of your table. Merely tell me what you know of the surround, that I might have my bearings, and I will go when my clothes dry. This is the least you could give to honor those people who were once named the Eolish. Chastened by his calm, they did lower their caution, and gave to him the lay of the lands surrounding. Theirs the first home of the Ui Agla, and far from others. The forests which they thought he walked through were once populated by the Ui Lide Esal and Amach Es, but grew quiet with their destruction. Beyond their farmstead lay the lands of the Ui Agla, brought again to peace after long strife. And beyond them was the place of endings, where the rock of Eoland tumbles into the sea. They told him that he should dress in the manner of the Ui Agla, that in the future he would not be accosted, that the new peace afforded their Teloch meant that he could walk in peace. Aethelwald thanked them, continuing to speak with them until his clothes were dry. Then he dressed and went into the woods. There he found his men, who eagerly awaited his coming, watching from the trees to ensure his safety. Safe among them, Aethelwald gave command that they should leave with all haste, and placed himself beside Kelloch's litter. The warrior was pale, and dreamed of fire and ash, and no word of comfort reached him. Aethelwald made peace with him, and the warband began to resume its march. In that selfsame hour the many hungry hounds of the Teloch Rololoch did come in orderly march to the cliffs and water behind the runner unconquered, made docile by their failure. They counted their number and gave to him official right to lead them to battle. Afforded a short rest by him who stood above them, they ate in preparation of a day spent in pursuit, and readied their arms and souls for war. Then, at the call of a master's voice, they marched quickly to find battle. The two warbands marched the many hours of the day, as ever closer did the hunters come to their quarry, for they followed a path set clear before them, nor did they slow for the injured or weak among them, but pressed on ever at speed. As night fell, they came upon the farmhouse where Aethelwald had bathed. Many tracks led off into the woods, but their leader called to halt and pay visit to those shepherds. They surrounded the home as their chief went to the door. Out came those men who did call it home, arms in hand. But when they saw the number which had come, they were cowed. The runner spoke to them. A man is right to guard his home, for there are many about who would seize it from him. But we are in the hundreds, and would take all that you have labored to make as an afterthought. Surrender your arms, they shall do you no good. This place shall be consumed by fire at my first command. Surrender yourself and kneel before me. Give to me what I desire, and you shall continue to eke out this miserable life for a day longer. I desire to know the passing of the host which we are following. Brigands, thieves, and bandits who are in open rebellion against your Teloch, who do readily commit crimes against Aeolish customs. I wonder why it is that they did avoid your home, skirting by in the woods, rather than come and take what they desired from you, though any eye would discover that you have so little. These men have fought many battles and fear not their deaths. They have before slain unarmed men in cold blood. Why do you yet live? For what reason did they choose to spare these lives? What value did they find in you? I cannot see it, and so I am left wondering by what means have you secured your safety? Did you gift them your goats, your daughters? Can you know which you gave to them when the two are so similar? Have you sold to them your land, or is this starved farm the rat's nest from where they plague us? Why did these men of violence spare you when they did not others? There is no reason why you should be spared when so many greater men perished. Satisfy my curiosity. Tell me why you still draw breath. Those men were so cowed that their weapons fell from their hands, and they stood defenseless before the hungry, and with wavering voice replied, "Yours is the first host to come to us. We did not see any other come. The passing of such a warband would have been noted. Yet we were this day visited by an outsider, who came for but a brief time to use our well and learn direction to the southern tip of Aethelwald. He was a strange man, in colors ancient to this land, speaking clearer than any man I have ever heard. If there were a band of bandits who came through this land, then he was not among them, for he was calm and peaceable, seeming as a man we'd known through many years. He gave us his name, Aethelwald, a good Aeolish name, his Teloch from far across the island. If we have done wrong by giving freely to this man our water, then let us be punished by the laws of the Teloch. But we did not violate the guest laws of the Aeolish, and if we held true the laws divine, it would not be just to suffer under the laws of man." Thus, even in their cowardice, they found courage in the memory of Aethelwald, and were men in the face of danger. Yet the captain of the host learned what he desired, and turned from them to conceal his glee. He gave order to leave with all haste, the home no longer occupying his attention. Once in the forest, and following the tracks of their prey, this captain gathered his men to him and spoke. "Those poor men are deprived of far more than prosperity, for they were given a great prize, and yet they knew not that they held it. Had they known the man Aethelwald when he stood before them thirsty, they would have forgotten all laws of that divine power which they so fear, and wedded the earth with his blood. Aethelwald is of the Uncoltabar, that miserable race which sought to rule over the Aeolish people, though they had not the right to. Long I have known their ilk. His brother is the black fiend which did curse this land, stealing the flower of the Ui Agla in treachery and bringing us all to war. He and the captain of this warband which we now pursue are one and the same. Of this I am certain. This cretin of poor birth did come to this land to complete the vile deed of his kin and steal the maiden daughter of your people. These men think that by obtaining wrong possession of her and placing her in torturous condition over many dark years, they might come to own your freedom. Our chase has gained importance, for now we revenge ourselves on the last of a litter which has so plagued your people. Tell me, warriors, does not this news bring your blood to boil, that a race so vile has come so near again to taking your wives? Abandon your weary muscles, forget the pain of your body, forge yourself into iron. Let us destroy the scourge for all time." His men were brought to rage when they learned the true name of their foe, that their Teloch had twice come near to losing his daughter to the faithless, to traitors, to blackguards. As hounds baying for the hunt they became, and would accept no rest but that of victory. As Aethelwald and his men went along beneath the setting sun, Teloch died of his wound. For though well tended by the skill of his ward, the cruel cut was mortal, and the old warrior was prepared to leave. Far did he go in his final day, from beneath dark night to unexpected light. Many battles had he faced, many fell before him, but he was greater than the war he fought, for he was a king of a people. Never did he bring them to useless violence. Never did he permit them to be slandered, holding their honor above all things. He submitted to greater force only when it gave proofs of its benevolence, and by submission placed on the highest pedestal a more brilliant light which did shine into all corners of the island. Here then are those virtues by which the just king rules, and by which the Tela does prosper, and which made that gold age of peace beneath the high Teloch Malach. Yet that world was destroyed in fiery betrayal, and the world changed to be yet more cruel. And as an age of man came to its final day, he lingered on as the last rays which still touch the clouds long after the sun is swallowed by the maw of the earth, reminding those preparing for the long darkness of what the glory of the high sun was. So did he pass, by coward's dart delivered, when he did defend defenseless men from sudden onslaught. Last of a long-gone race of men, the high Eolish. Aethelwald wept at the sight as peace conquered the fierce face of the warrior, for in his death he seemed to come to rest which had long eluded him, which he himself had not dreamed of. The morning captain called the warband to halt where they stood, and told them their long flight had ended. About them silent and steady the forest continued on, and far distant came the sound of waves. Aethelwald bade them to light fires and set their tents, to feast and be merry, and to hold in their thoughts the memory of a good man. Yet as he prepared to lift the litter and carry the dead into the woods to raise his mound alone, unmarked and unknown to the world of men, they became aware of the presence of another. In dark robes he picked his way through the trees, ever towards them with steady gait. Aethelwald, alone without his guardian, saw a wraith and gave command to arm for desperate battle. The hooded figure slowed before the point of so many spears. In blind pain Aethelwald barked for battle, but the stranger lifted his hands and sued for peace, removing his hood to reveal a young man of black locks and dark eyes. His name and Tela were demanded, and these he gave gladly. "Hail, brave warriors of Eoland! In none of the great realms I have walked are travelers so mistrusted. Indeed, it is rare in the wide lands of Yrol for 100 men to be so frightened of one, but rather the opposite holds true in those many kingdoms. I am Gregory, from a land so far distant that its name cannot have meaning to you, born in the city of Birsjarten. But you have no cities of the kind here. I have crossed the sundering sea to your fair isle with many of my brothers, by the order of the great seat of the Holy Church, to bring to you, Eolish, the word of the good God. For it is his light which is true, and for so long you have heeded wrong gods, capricious and cruel. To that end I have come ashore this day, rowing the troubled water of the great bay from our monastery, on the lone mountain in the sea, Scar Meline. I did come here looking to learn from the locals, but it seems that I shall not be learning much today, and since I loathe to have wasted days, I shall do some teaching. This is an island long troubled by those scourges of violence and envy, and I can see in your eyes terror, terror which has been instilled in all the Aeolish from this chaos. You once had a king without failing, yet he was slain in his own home by those who promised him fealty. The guilt of this act lingers in all hearts, so when another prospers you desire to tear them down, that they might not rise above the pain which you carry. This island is weary of battle, and so it comes to you to forgive. Forgive them that wronged you. For in you is but a piece of a greater soul, one which is found in each man your brother as if from birth. One cannot return to the fold when it has caused so much harm to itself. I see now the cause of your grief is the dead which you carry with you, for which you have so swiftly raised your arms against me. I take care not to judge harshly those who are in mourning, as grief is but love expressed in loss, and through grief no man has yet sinned. No doubt he was a great chief, mighty and just, virtues most treasured by the Aeolish. Have you come so far in flight on his account? Stained by mud and wearied, you stand before me. Come, rest, fear no harm from me. Let these long miles you have run be final tribute to a good king. Permit me to give the final rites which belong to the good God, that he might attain heavenly paradise, given only to those who heed him. Aethelwald, relieved, gave no objection, and camp was made. The monk, without any possessions but the clothes he carried, immediately set himself to preparing the last rites. He took water from the bay and blessed it, that it would cleanse away disease and sin. Then did he lay out Teloch upon the litter, changing his bandages and washing him entire in the holy water. And as Aethelwald looked on, the priest lay a hand upon Teloch's heart and cradled his head with the other, speaking a blessing and prayer. In these solemn and ancient rites, Teloch became first of the Aeolish buried by the rites of the good God, given him by the wise Gregory. The monk then settled in their camp, talking and drinking easily with the men, as if they were his own kin, everywhere offering condolence and solace for the mourners, until when the moon sat high in her place, he thanked them for their hospitality and declared his intention to go onwards in hopes of reaching more settled peoples to speak with. He embraced the warband and its captain before walking into the night. Aethelwald then gathered the body and told his men he would raise a mound for Teloch alone in the heart of the forest, but that they should eat and sleep in comfort until he returned the following day, though they should keep a close watch until he returned to them. Far from the fire and the sounds of man he went, the dead in his arms, until all faded away but for his footfall and whispering breath. For the night did hold her creatures still, and the winds did not blow. And in this still world he walked as the living in the world of death, beyond the veil which does lay upon mortal eyes. Alone he fastened together a bier where Teloch was placed for his final sleep. Then by hand a mound was raised about him. By his great love he raised it to 10 rela high, worthy of a king. His task complete, he rested at the foot of the howe and sang a song taught to him by the sparrow, a song of deepest thanksgiving. For he had known much hardship in his life, but never did he give to despair. His guardian was stalwart and unbending, and through him he had never come to the misfortune of doubt. Such was his strength. As the first note was breathed into being, the night began again, dancing in the rhythm of his voice. From the earth, grass evergreen sprang and covered the mound at once, that Teloch's house seemed ancient. From the sky the birds did join him, and sang alongside in harmony. From the water flew many insects, which twisted and twirled in the melody of night. And when he finished his singing, he rose to leave, but discovered behind him stood many stags watching him from the trees, and light flies in great number swarmed beneath the leaves, that the stars were unseen for their great light. As Aethelwald gazed in wonder, the light flies ordered themselves to fly in a ring above him, and the stags knelt, their crowning horns submitted. And she came. From the darkest shadow of the forest she stepped into the light of the flies, as though she had formed from the dusk and walked into the light. Walking between the subservient beasts, her white gown brushing softly against the grasses which rose to meet her every step, a hand raised in offer to him. This he took, though mesmerized by her very being, and turning from him she addressed the grave of Teloch. Here lies that man who did abandon battle and vows to spirit me from all harms, who ran from the burning maw of oblivion and from the baying hounds of death that I might live. My father betrayed, my mother murdered, my family ended, my Tela destroyed. I was taken from his comfortable guardianship by those who would not see me live in comfort under guard, but taught that I might use that power which resides in my blood, power which did not belong to Malach nor Mathred, but to the wife of Math only. I have mastered it, though long I have suffered to attain that prize, and nearly did I forget the world of man for the other which I have known, one of darkness and beasts eager to feast off the blood of the waking world. A life of loneliness I have been made to lead from the day I was taken from this now dead man, and in my heart I am left to ponder if by his care I would have known love which all children are to be given, and not the desperate warfare I was made to wage against demons, even the Baith fear to battle. I cannot but wonder of the life which was to be mine had I been permitted to live among men. I cannot know that world which was taken from me so long ago, but I am left to dream of it, dreams which of late have held you in them. Only 2 other men have I met since the burning of Hala. They came through mists and fogs to a place where few dared tread, but never has any man walked into the realm of the Baith to see me. Tell why you did pursue the deer for so many miles, beyond mortal lands, into the Baith lands. I see clearly that Teloch the warrior was dear to you, and I desire to learn the life of him who was the last connection to the days of my father, when Eoland was ruled by wisdom and power by men who cared for nothing more than the safety of its people. Though enraptured by the splendor, he did not struggle to speak. Words flowed easily from him as the tides of the sea, for in her beauty he found compassion which did not fear any sorrow. Long have I known Teloch, for 10 years of this short life of mine, 5 of which he was a guest in the hall of my father. In the others he was my greatest guardian, and I his meek ward. My house did fall, not by fire but the sword, and into exile I did go, for my name will bring bloodshed upon my Tela. In exile I had but 3 companions, teachers of great wisdom, the otter who knew men, the sparrow who knew song, and Teloch who knew war. Rare it is that a child should have 3 such teachers, and by them I did learn the nature of Eoland, how to command the hearts of men to bring about a more peaceful age, a struggle which I do now strive to win. A man might see but little, yet even the weakest eyes would discover that the face of Teloch was one of pain. The fire of Hala burned ever before his eyes. This I know, Teloch would have surrendered all good fortune, all health and sanity, to see you raised in safety. And since that terrible day his mind has thought of his failure to his king, and to that line of sacred blood with each passing moment. Never did he abandon the desire to see you full grown and happy, loved and cherished. He did love your father for his kindness and justice, and to not repay what little he could to one so good did haunt him. He was a harsh man, not born so, but made by many trials and failures. Yet buried in him was still a man who desired nothing but justice, who in rage was greater than fire itself, and to whom the silent laws of custom were most sacred. Long did he search for you, and now, at final hour, you are found. She did weep at the knowledge of what might have been given her in another life, not bitter tears but sorrowful, and Aethelwald too began to weep. The dead seemed to stand so large above him, and all their labours an unpayable weregild, which 100 generations of his children could not repay. The loss of his final protector left him alone against a hateful island. Alone, and together they stood at the grave of Teloch, and together they wept until they did not have strength to continue, when all further tears lose their meaning. Then turning to the other, and seeing with eyes unclouded by fiercest grief, steady and true, hers found the steady burning fire of man, which does ever battle for his place among creation. His full of wonder at the endless shimmering starlight which shone even in the darkest night, and seeds asleep rose by rain to full bloom. He spoke to her gently, breaking the still moment, and time rushed into it, the light flies scattering into the sky, and the hearts vanishing into the trees, as the corners of the night surrendered to the dawn. Yet she remained. I know not where you will go, but I fear more than any fate that you should be separated from me, that you should leave my arms to vanish from my eyes into bathed lands. This is the land of men, the soil from which you were fashioned. Here is the land of your blood. Heed its call, its desires to embrace you once more, your presence sacred to it. Iolland loves each of her children. I did fall into a realm foreign to me when I chased after the hinds and hearts which answer your call alone. Yet though the stars were strange and the air too sweet, when I found you I knew I was not lost, as though I had crossed the threshold to my very home where I wanted for nothing. When I rejected false men and wrong gifts, and was set upon by those I had long counted my friends, fleeing that no further harm might come to my people, in that dark night I felt you as though you stood beside me for each tired step, for each drop of blood shed by Teloch, and by his words and your nearness I could banish the many doubts which would destroy me. And now, as I stand beside the grave of my last guide, slain by my failings, I see my past as one road and a future which goes in one certain path only, without diversion or distraction, and it is a life spent entire by your side. Stay in Iolland. Even should you desire to see nothing of me, I could bear it by the knowledge that you returned to your natural place among kin. Stay among mortal men and suffer no longer. And as the light filtered through the trees, the world resumed its ordinary form, no longer marked by the strange movements of animals, but ordinary birdsong. The grass of Teloch's house stirred beneath the winds, and the pair stood alone. Softly came her reply to his plea. Gaze about you at the waking world, at the great star rising over a land eager for its light. Can you not see that we now stand in the land of our birth? That before your desperate request I chose to remain here among the struggles of man, and with you. I have seen a great many terrors in the short years which I have lived. Evils were placed upon me as if to challenge my strength in hopes of preparing for some great battle. I am ready to place my power to its natural use, for the betterment of the people which named my father their high Teloch, and placed in my blood all hope and justice. For there comes a day when further delay is dangerous to all future days, and the shame of inaction becomes too great. You did not fail Teloch, but I fear that I have. For had I fled here but hours sooner, I could perhaps have spared this fate. And if days sooner, he might not have been wounded at all, and the terrible burden of his being would be lifted, his failure removed. Alas, that this could not come to be, that I stood with foot in this land and the other, unable to decide where to stand, and from fear I could not stand wholly in one, torn between daily pain and phantasmal terror. I stand here, both feet firmly in the rich soil of Aethelwald, for a face has swayed me from indecision, and here do I wish to remain until final ending, when the land is broken, the earth swallowed, the dead from their mounds tumble into the sea, and all the world is remade. I shall not leave my people. Without need for speaking, yet in such manner that the other understood the deepest, most tender expressions of their heart, they pledged themselves together. Near the camp of the stags, sailing from far distant shores and into the bay of Cassellas, the long ships arrived through the spray and fog which lies heavy on the sea. Red their sails, and in their hearts warriors of steel and iron ready to avenge themselves for their fallen chiefs. End. Book 7. The Ring of Dain Thar Duin was written and performed by Michael Frutig. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting the project on Patreon. Supporters get text files of each chapter, as well as access to Q&A posts, other writing projects, such as flash fiction and chapters of other works. Go to patreon.com/michaelfrutig for more. patreon.com/MICHAELFRUTIG. Thank you.